So hello and welcome to this morning meditation. And if we're in the middle of this series on insight and coming to the part of insight meditation, insight practice where we're looking at the amazing Pali word pronounced dukkha. And as I'll talk more about it, it's an adjective. And in English, sometimes there's the preposition before. One translation of dukkha is suffering, and the word that sometimes precedes it is suffering with, or follows it. One suffers with something. And what I'm trying to say here is that in Pali it's an adjective. It's always something that is painful. And when there's something that's painful, there's also something which is not painful. When there's suffering, there's also that which is not suffering. When there is affliction, there's also that which is not afflicted. When there is something with suffering with something, that it is, there's that which is not suffering, not with suffering. And so this meeting of what is suffering, what is not suffering, is a fascinating place. And sometimes we emphasize things are either one way or another. But in the Dharma, it's helpful to think of them as not either or, but there's an and. And the Dharma happens in the and in between. It's not just suffering, and it's not just happiness. There's an and. Suffering and that which is not suffering. Happiness and that which is not happy exactly, but it's not yet suffering either. It's that and that's even happier than happiness. That and that is freer of suffering. So to have a meeting, to feel where things are stressful, tense, uncomfortable, and know it with a knowing that is free of suffering, knowing that's free of stress, knowing that is free of contraction, tension in relationship to it. That meeting place of what is suffering, what is not suffering. Look for that in this meditation. And don't try to have it one way or the other. Don't try to have it only no suffering. Don't try to only focus on suffering. But try to find a place where that which doesn't suffer can meet what is suffering, so that in the end you can find stability. In the end you can find a steadiness. In the end you can find freedom even. So to assume a meditation posture and to gently close your eyes and take a few moments to feel your posture. And maybe swaying back and forth, kind of adjusting the positioning of your weight in your body to find a feeling of balance with your posture. Loosening up places of holding. I long ago was taught when I did Zen to flap my elbows a little bit when I'm sitting cross-legged or sitting in a chair, to loosen up any subtle ways the arms are being held. I've also been taught to gently kind of shake or move the fingers so they can loosen up, the hands can loosen up. Sometimes it's nice to rotate the head a little bit. Sometimes just like, almost like you're saying no, but not to say no to anything, but rather to loosen up in the neck, maybe in the shoulders. And then gently taking some deeper breaths. And on the exhale, softening the whole body. On the exhale, like the whole weight of the body can settle into the pull of gravity. And then to let your breathing return to normal. And with a normal exhale, relax different parts of your body, soften in the body. With the exhale, softening some of your tension or holding in your thinking mind. And then to settle into your breathing, or to settle into the present moment here in the body, this time and place, in whatever way allows you to feel a settling, a stabilizing, and entering into a fullness of this moment, a fullness with the body breathing. to soften, relax how you're aware, how you're mindful, but being aware clearly, knowing clearly the present moment experience. So the sense of present moment knowing, present moment awareness is valued, is appreciated, is its own thing that's being established, separate from being entangled with thoughts, emotions, attitudes, entering into knowing, awareness, mindfulness of the present moment with every breath. And if there's any strain, tension in how you're aware, how you're mindful, see if you can soften, relax, open up how you're aware. There is breathing, and there's how you're aware of breathing. And then noticing that in the meeting of breathing and awareness, notice if there's any part of that experience where there's an absence of suffering, tension, stress, Notice that absence. Breathe with that absence. Open to that absence. And then as we continue, if you're feeling any suffering, any stress, tension, emotional pain, allow it to be there. But let it be there in the meeting place with what is not stressful, what is not suffering. Don't lean into suffering or hold on to it or react to it. Let it coexist with awareness which is not suffering. Let it coexist with something here that has no strain in it, no tension. Rather than feeling or believing that suffering, uneasiness is a global experience. It's always a partial experience, where a global experience includes that which is not suffering. And with this practice of mindfulness, hold them both together. the meeting place of suffering and non-suffering. And then leaving suffering alone. Any uneasiness you might feel, however subtle, leave it alone. And settle into some of the feelings, characteristics of that which doesn't suffer. Maybe there's a feeling of spaciousness, stability, stillness, openness, aliveness. Enter into that which doesn't suffer and breathe with it, feel it, sense it. Let it grow and spread. And as we come to the end of this sitting, may it be that the practice of mindfulness shows us how not to be afraid of suffering. May it show us how to show up for the suffering we have, the sufferings other people have, to meet it, to know it. Without suffering. To meet suffering in a mature, honest way, with that part of us that has stability and openness, receptivity, that doesn't suffer. And may this ability to meet suffering, our own and the suffering of the world, may it allow for us to meet the suffering of the world, to meet our own suffering with love, with wisdom, with compassion and care. May we find a new way to be with suffering. That can transform the world, transform ourselves, to make this a peaceful world, a safe world, a world where happiness and care and love can flow, a world where we feel free. We can breathe freely and easily and be at ease with each other. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free. Thank you. So hello everyone, and welcome to this series on insight. And it's we're now into the second half of the year, and what I'm introducing this week is built on all that we've done the first half of the year. So this is not out of the blue. It's not meant to be self-standing. It's meant to have a phenomenal support that we're ready to bring mindfulness to we're ready to bring mindfulness to that part of our life that's quite difficult, to the world that English Buddhists call suffering. And an essential part of Buddhist practice is a mature, clear, honest encounter with suffering, with stress, with tension, with the emotional difficulties of our life, the ways that life can be so challenging for all of us. and how to be able to meet that in an effective and useful way. To be able to be present and not collapse in the face of challenges, to meet it and stay in some ways strong and open, to meet it and not be defined by the suffering, not be overwhelmed by it, not be confused by it, but to be able to really be present for it in a clear, effective, and honest way, so that we find our way to freedom. So we find a radically different way to be with suffering than ordinarily we might be. And so to hear this emphasis and be ready, hopefully many of you have been doing this now for 6 months, feel like you have this in the background to be able to meet this in a new way. So the word for that we translate by suffering is dukkha in the ancient language of the Buddha, Pali, we call it the way it comes to us. And dukkha, D-U-K-K-H-A, is in the ancient language is actually an adjective, whereas the English word suffering is usually considered a noun, kind of maybe a verbal noun, but a noun. And but in Pali it's an adjective, so that's very different. It means that it's always referring to something. It's a characteristic of something. It's not its own thing. It's not its own event that's there. And so a little bit maybe demotes the word suffering from how it can be seen as being this grand, catastrophic kind of thing that is so big. So the literal Pali meaning of the word suffering is painful. And it doesn't distinguish between emotional pain and physical pain. It's whatever is painful, and human life has pain in it. But the Buddhist orientation is to give extra attention to the emotional pain that we might experience, because the emotional pain is, or the psychological pain, that part of the pain that we feel that in one way or the other we are contributing to. We're not necessarily responsible for our suffering, but there is a way in which we contribute to it and that adds to it, that makes it much more difficult. There are certain forms of emotional pain which comes with being a human being. To grieve is painful, but it's not wrong to feel that pain. There's something sacred about grief and about that pain of grief that's very tender and very human to experience and make room for and allow for. And it's fairly easy to be able to add a degree of stress, tension that's not necessary to it. And we can suffer more by what we contribute to it, the fear, the resistance, the collapsing into it, the excessive reactivity to it, the heavy beliefs that we live under around what we're experiencing. So we have a contribution that we make. And so the dukkha, as an adjective, is the stressfulness, the painfulness, the tenseness that we contribute to whatever the experience it might be. And it's maybe challenging to talk about our contribution, because then we feel like maybe that we're wrong, or that we did something, a mistake, or that somehow now I'm being blamed for the suffering that I have. And that is not what we're trying to do here at all. We're actually trying to free us from this more complicated way of interpreting and concluding who we are, what's going on here, and learn how to be very simple, very quiet and simple, so that we can feel the ways in which we add stress, the way where there's tension, the way in which there's suffering, that can be met with that which doesn't suffer, that can be met with something that holds it caringly, compassionately, openly, some way of holding it so there's a peacefulness. We don't add second arrows. We don't add ways that we make it worse. If anything, what we're adding is how to make it better for ourselves in relationship to suffering. So some people translate the word dukkha as stress, and the advantage of that is that that's not such a big word, and it's not necessarily so automatically tied to our psychology, to our identity, that it sometimes does if it's the word suffering. And stress is a kind of an inherent part of human life as well. And maybe it's easier to appreciate that stress is extra, and that we can kind of work with our stress in a responsible way to de-stress. And the advantage of stress as a translation of dukkha is that as the samadhi gets really strong, as the meditation goes really deep and full, we wouldn't call it suffering anymore, what's there. But we can feel very subtle tension, very subtle stress, that's maybe even right in the midst of feeling a lot of joy, right in the midst of feeling a lot of happiness, right in the midst of, in a very subtle way, in the midst of feeling a lot of peace. And so to feel that stress, to feel the subtlest little pieces of tension, is part of the onward leading nature of freedom. And even there, to find tension and stress in the subtlest, in the deepest kind of peaceful states of meditation, expands the fullness of that which doesn't suffer, the experience of freedom, of openness, the absence of suffering, into which we can fall, into which we can open. So, so the idea that dukkha is not its own thing. It's an adjective that means that it's part of something, which means that suffering is never the whole thing, that it's always a piece of our humanity. It's a section, it's an aspect of it. And I know that sometimes the whole atmosphere, the whole world can just feel distressing and fearful and dismaying and difficult, and the weight of the world can be on our shoulders. The idea in mindfulness practice is to practice with the world that we have, the experience we have, not to make it worse, not to suffer more because of it, but to be able to find some degree of stability, steadiness, stillness, some ability of clarity, clear awareness. So we begin to recognize there's always more going on here than whatever it is we're calling suffering, whatever it is that's painful for us, emotionally painful, physically painful, and to begin to feel that which is more, feel that which is not suffering, so we can be with suffering in a mature, responsible, caring way, and a wise way. And when there's enough stability, enough ability to meet suffering without adding second arrows, without making it worse, then the hope is that we can think more wisely, more clearly about it, and know how to address it appropriately. And sometimes something needs to be fixed, something needs to be addressed. Sometimes we need to speak to someone or take care of something or do something. Sometimes we need to take a break, or we need to kind of find relief. We need to find a vacation. We need to find some way to, even occasionally, to distract ourselves so that something can relax and be easeful. But it's never meant to be an escape. Buddhist practice is not an escape from suffering. It's to learn how to work with suffering in a wise way. And there comes a time when the meditation, when the mindfulness, the practice is strong, when the best strategy is to learn to suffer better. And that's a provocative statement, to suffer better. What I mean by that is not to just suffer for the sake of suffering. Suffering better is to suffer in a way that's wise. Suffer so there's less suffering. Suffering so that suffering is met with that which doesn't suffer. Suffering is felt as only part of the picture. Something we can breathe with, something we can find our ease with, something we can practice with. Where the idea of practice, we identify more with us as a practitioner of peace, of mindfulness, of clarity, of stability, of calm, than we identify with whatever suffering we have. We can meet our suffering with that which doesn't suffer. And if we can't, to be mindful and clear about that. It's okay. If we can't be together with our suffering in a clear and useful way because we're spiraling out, then the appropriate thing to do is to find another way. Then mindfulness is not the way at that moment. Then it's to do something, shift something. Go for a walk, talk to our friend, maybe do some exercise, or occasionally, as I said, we distract ourselves so that we retreat only so we can come back later and begin addressing the edges of what is difficult. And not to address it to try to fix it, but rather to and this is the amazing thing about this practice, is we're not trying to fix something, but we're trying to find our freedom with it. Find our freedom with suffering, and so that suffering and that which doesn't suffer can meet each other. And there, in that and between them, that's where we find our freedom. So thank you very much, and we'll continue this topic of insight into suffering. Thank you.